Welcome back everybody to PoolieMagTV, the raw, unedited, unscripted NUFC fan channel where everybody's got an opinion and nobody's opinion's wrong. So this is my third video in about as many days, quite prolific as you can see, but there's a lot going on, in Newcastle. I did say I wasn't going to be keeping up to date with everything, but I think these transfer talks are too good for me not to at least highlight and make a video on. They're too important, shall I say, for PoolieMagTV not to be in the mix of it, you know what I mean, not to be in the thick of it. I'd be doing my subscribers a disservice if I wasn't making videos about these upcoming transfer rumours. And I think, all the bigger channels, are daily channels. This isn't a daily channel, but at the minute I'm in a good headspace, I'm motivated, and what's going on in Newcastle world, is motivating me to make these videos. Now I will say that my average watch time is about 2 minutes, so if you do like these videos, please hit like, hit subscribe, and share the channel. I have been leaving it till the end of the video to talk about this, but I don't want to bleat on about it. But if you like what you see, just subscribe. It costs nothing and it helps the channel grow. Right, anyway, into the thick of it, into the crux of the matter. Let's get down to the nitty gritty, what we came here to listen to. So, Ekitike, we have had our first bid, a written bid of €80 million, rejected by Frankfurt. Now Frankfurt, aren't a million miles off with this, but they want more cash up front really. The payment structure wasn't good enough for them. So it looks like we went in and probably offered them 35-40 million up front, something like that, and they've thought, no, we want close to 60 million or something like that up front. We don't want as many add-ons, we don't want it stretched out over 3 to 4, 5 years, we want the bulk of it up front. Now, whether we can afford to do that is yet to be seen. Whether we can afford to do that and bring in some more players is yet to be seen. But I didn't expect the first bid to be accepted, but I don't want it to become a Mark Gage saga either. I want us to go in with a second bid, a really improved bid. If they reject that, then walk away and get somebody else. Because we can't be going round and round in circles with these clubs all the time in public and making ourselves look like fools. But I didn't expect the first bid. The first bid very, very, very rarely accepted in football. Unless they've got a release clause and you trigger it, or you give them something exceptional like 150 million or something like that. But very, very rarely in football is the first bid accepted. So I wasn't expecting the first bid for Ekitike, to be accepted. But I don't want this to be dragged out and drawn out like it was last summer. I don't want another saga. I don't want a summer of sagas, like we had last season. Let's get in, improve the bid. If we want them, pay what they want. If we can't afford what they want, then move on to somebody else. But I really rate Ekitike, as you'll know from my last video about him, solely about him. I bigged him up. I think he's a great player. I think he'll do really well for us if we do manage to sign him. But we can't go chasing our tail on this one and beating around the bush all the time. We've got to go in, direct and say, look, this is what we're willing to offer. If you're not willing to accept it, then we need to move on. So that's sort of done with Ekitike, but we're not really, are we? Because Liverpool now, the mighty Reds from Merseyside, have come in now and they've given us a bit of an ultimatum apparently. We either sell them Isak or they're going to go get Ekitike. Now, for me, they can go and get Ekitike. I wouldn't get rid of Isak. Isak is a proven commodity. Selling Isak to Liverpool weakens us whether we get Ekitike or not, and absolutely strengthens them for sheer domination of the Premier League. Imagine Isak at Liverpool. I shudder to think, that can't happen. So if that's the ultimatum that we've been given, then unless Isak hands in a transfer request and starts kicking up a fuss, we need to keep Isak. We really do need to keep Isak, because Isak's Premier League proven. Ekitike is not. Ekitike looks fantastic for Frankfurt, and I have no doubt that he would do great for us. Well, I say no doubt, you've always got to have that little bit of doubt until it's proven. Where there's no doubt in my mind that Alexander Isak is a world-class striker, or isn't far from being world-class. You know, Ekitike isn't on Isak's level. You can say what you want about him. He had a great season for Frankfurt, but he's not on Isak's level. If Ekitike comes in, we want Isak to stay, and we want Ekitike to learn off Isak. So when Isak finally does leave, which he will at some point, you know, Ekitike is learnt off one of the best strikers in Europe. But if the ultimatum is, we either sell us Isak or we buy Ekitike, let them buy Ekitike. You know, let them buy him. We can't afford to get rid of Alexander Isak. I'm sorry, but we can't. Unless, like I say, Alexander Isak kicks up a fuss, which I don't think he would. I really don't. I know we've got the hands off and, you know, not for sale sign above his head. But if they come in with a cool 130, 140 million, that will turn some heads. Well, let them get Ekitike if that's what their ultimatum is. You know, because I would rather have Alexander Isak than Ekitike. You know, the greed in me would want them both, and if we can have them both, then that's absolutely fantastic. But if you make me choose out of one of them, well, it has to be Isak all day long for me. It really does. Like I say, his attitude's been exemplary. He's not somebody who's going to force his way out the club, I don't think. He's not somebody who's going to kick up a fuss, and if he does, then sell him. And I don't think he will. But like I say, I don't think the Hugo Ekitike deal is dead for us, but if the rumours are true and the ultimatum is true from Liverpool, let them crack on and sign him, because I will keep Isak all day long. So, anyway, the last point I want to make is we've got some other transfer news, you know, going on in the background. We've got James Trafford apparently going to be our next signing after Ekitike and things like that. We've been into Trafford for a while. But Giorgio Scalvini from Atalanta, now he's coming in, he'll cost us about 50 to 52 million pound. Now I don't see how we can afford Ekitike and Scalvini. Apparently we've got between about 120, 150 million to spend. I had 200 million, you know, last week, but now it's about 120, 150 million. So I don't see how we can afford Ekitike and Scalvini. But I don't see Ekitike, if we get him, being our last signing, and we certainly need a top draw centre back, because Fabian Schär, as good of a servant as he's been, you know, cannot play every week. Yes, he rolled back the years a little bit at the back end of last season, but the beginning of the season he was dreadful, and he showed his limitations and he showed his age. He managed to recapture that magic at the back end of last season, and he played a blinder. But how long can you keep doing that for? I really don't know. I don't know how long you can keep doing that for. We need cover. We need cover in centre mid and all, which is why Conor Gallagher, easy for me to say, Conor Gallagher from Atletico Madrid, the former Chelsea and Crystal Palace player, has also been touted for us. But I think Scalvini, from what I've seen, would be ready-made to just come in, and imagine him and Botman. And if we could get Ekitike. So Scalvini, I think, is, you know, he's got to be one of our top targets. I know he's good friends with Tonali, so that's got to help. You know, because obviously Newcastle don't have many Italian players throughout the years, and obviously Sandro Tonali is the only Italian there. So if you've got a friend there, it makes it a little bit easier. Atalanta are a good club, you know, and they're always in and around the Champions League spots in Serie A, and they always give a good account of themselves in the Champions League. But I just think coming to the Premier League would be a little bit of a step up for Scalvini. And I think Scalvini would be a ready-made replacement for Fabian Schär. And I think him and Botman would be absolutely quality. And even Ben coming in, because Ben's great. Ben had the season of his life. Fabian Schär had the back end of the season of his life. But they can't play every game, and we need squad depth. So Scalvini, I think, would be great. If we can keep Isak, get Hugo Ekitike and get Scalvini alongside Elanga, well, I'd be a very, very happy man. But what's everybody's thoughts? What about the ultimatum? Will we get Hugo Ekitike? Will Liverpool swoop in for him? Will we sell Isak to Liverpool? You know, there's a lot going on with that ultimatum. What would you do? What would you decide? I've already given you my thoughts. Now I want to hear yours. Comment down below. And like I said earlier in the video, hit like, hit subscribe, and share the channel. Help it grow. Anyway, keep it PoolieMagTV. Keep it black and white, and over and out, folks.